Good evening. You're on watching The Smoking Section with Stephen Helfer. I'm Emily Weija, and I'll be your host tonight. And today in the studio with me is a very special guest who we've welcomed before on The Smoking Section. Please welcome Geoff Yalenezian. Hello, Geoff.
Hi.
Geoff is, I just want to mention, Geoff is CEO and head honcho of Brennan Smoke Shops, which has, is it 7 locations?
Working on 8. My mom, Karen, is actually the head honcho, really.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I don't want to step on Karen's toes, but in my mind, I always think of you as head honcho, I have to say. The CEO. Is CEO an accurate term?
Mom actually changed me to COO, which is operating officer.
I see. Okay, CEO. I'm going to make a note of that for next time because I want to be proper. Okay.
Chief Operating Officer
COO.
for Brennan's.
Okay. That's a good title. I like it. Now, Geoff, you're joining us at an interesting time. I feel like it's, it's December. We're almost to the new year. I feel like it's also been quite a tumultuous year politically. There's also been a lot of new regulations, it seems, FDA regulations put into place this year, which affect tobacco retailers and consumers very strongly. And I know one of these is about affects premium cigars. Is that correct?
The Food and Drug Administration has taken over regulation for cigars as well as chewing snuff.
As well as snuff, okay.
Yeah.
And how is snuff or chewing tobacco actually defined by the Food and Drug Administration? I mean, in other words, I know
moist. Snuff would be like moist chewing tobacco.
Moist chewing tobacco.
And cigars are it has to have a cigar wrapper.
Okay.
Or a homogenized wrapper.
Interesting. And so what are these new regulations?
Well, they're basically regulating they're regulating cigars, and actually not only cigars and chew, but also e-cigarettes. They're basically regulating. So they came out with a list back in July of all of the retailers that were non-compliant, and it was when they took control of cigars and chew and vape, and the list of violating retailers that violated the new the Tobacco Control Act were vape juice distributors, primarily online, a lot of vape stores locally. So in other words, when these new regulations came into effect, they came out immediately with a list of violators, or they do compliance. The FDA does compliance checks. They do compliance checks on my businesses, make sure we're not selling cigarettes to a minor, making sure they have, for e-juice, for example, that they have child-proof caps. They're not selling again to minors because you have to be 18 now. You didn't prior to the FDA regulations. Maura Healey in Massachusetts had an emergency order last July that brought e-cigs into the regulations, or in line with cigarettes and cigars. So if it's no smoking, it's no smoking of vape and juice as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. So, but basically, it's the same as any tobacco product. They're just now the FDA, instead of leaving it up to the local boards of health to do the regulating, it's now in the FDA, and a lot of the local towns use the FDA to subsidize the tobacco control. So basically, it just opened this premium cigar industry and the domestic cigar industry up for regulation. And that's when it became active. That's what they did, is they went and did compliance checks. And of course, the list was cig and vape distributors, because that's what they were doing. I mean, but there's,
So would it be correct to say, though, that nothing really changed in the laws regarding snuff and cigars, but it's the enforcement of it that's changed?
There's a lot of gray areas in cigars. Like, they don't want, if you do, say like in my store, we have a lot of different cigars. If we go and we pull different cigars and put them in a package, and we sell, say, the whole package for $40, they want us to register as a manufacturer.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
All right, so substantial equivalency, which is really confusing to me, and I'm in the business. So substantial equivalency is when the Tobacco Control Act in 2008, any cigar that was on the market prior to 2008 would have substantial equivalency. Anything that came after that, they would have to prove substantial equivalency. So it might have a different name, but they would have to prove that the blends existed before 2008. Well, what the cigar industry is trying to do is get the regulation for substantial equivalency pushed up to current whenever the law is actually passed, so that everything after 2016 or everything prior to 2016 would be substantially equivalent. and that would be all right. The process the manufacturers have to go through to get substantial equivalency or to get FDA approval, it's something like $300,000 per SKU. Per SKU. Wow. So if you're talking about a line of cigars, they may have a Robusto, a Bellicoso, a Torpedo, a Churchill. Each one of those cigars would have to have an FDA approval at $300,000.
So bottom line, this is going to be really expensive for retailers.
Yeah, and it's going to
be in compliance with.
It's going to hold up. Say Cubans coming into the country. Cubans, which
must be very highly in demand now. Is that correct?
They're always in demand because they just don't have a lot. And you watch when they finally hit America, they're going to be even more expensive because the supply isn't going to change, but the demand is going to go way up. Huh. But as soon as a premium cigar hits the border, comes off the container, it's 40 cents a cigar federal tax. The Cuban government is not happy about that being communist. It's like they want to sell cigars to us, but no, wait, you're telling me I gotta pay 40 cents a cigar, and now you're telling me I gotta get some. We all know like Cohiba and these Cuban cigars are substantially equivalent, but I've got to go through this equivalency process at 300,000 a SKU. So, for instance, not to brand a cigar, like Cohiba has their Cohiba Classic, then they have their Siglo, and then they each line has a Robusto, Bellicoso, Torpedo. So it's 300,000 per stick to get FDA approval.
And how often does that have to be paid?
That's once they get the FDA approval, I believe it's
a one-time fee.
If you have any new product coming out, you have to go through the same process. It's gonna so for instance, for many years I had dreamed of making my own brand of cigars. I was gonna
I didn't know that.
I wanted to, we're going to do, because we started in Plymouth, we were going to do Plymouth Bay Trading or Plymouth Bay Cigar Company.
It's a great idea.
And we were going to do like the Bunker Hill, the Plymouth Rock.
That'd be great.
The Brewster, stuff like that. Wow. So then you have all these.
So it's because of this regulation, that would be completely unfeasible for a small.
It's out the window.
Small specialty.
I used to have a Cuban guy that would make cigars, and we would, of course, we would pay the tax, but we'd sell them. And you can't do that anymore because obviously he's not a licensed manufacturer.
Wow, it brings to mind. I mean, I don't know much about the craft beer industry, but it just brings to mind. Like I've always heard that Jimmy Carter was one who changed regulation in the 70s and made it much more possible for small, for people to brew beer themselves in their homes, which apparently is what led to craft beer kind of taking off. And it seems like with cigars, this is a kind of regulation that's having the opposite effect. Where it's making it completely impossible for people to produce craft tobacco.
It's not really craft. Like you can go to the manufacturers, there's a factory, they make cigars for a lot of companies.
Okay. Yeah.
So you would go to a manufacturer, like say for instance, Rocky Patel is a major manufacturer of cigars. You go, hey, I want to make a private label cigar. I'll give you an example. We just got we have the Big Poppy cigars.
Oh.
All right, Big Poppy cigars just came out. Well, that cigar manufacturer, once FDA regulation really takes effect, and it's this long, slow process, they're gonna have to show a substantial equivalency. In other words, that cigar had to be made or manufactured, blended before 2008.
Oh, wow.
So you gotta understand, so I'm sure Big Poppy cigars, they'd love to have a Torpedo, a Robusto, a Churchill. They only have the one size, the Toro Gordo, and that's it.
Yep.
Which is really, really flying. People are psyched about that.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds like it might be a nice Christmas gift for certain people I know. So I'll have to keep that in mind.
they made it a good cigar too, so it should have legs.
Yeah.
But when you talk about regulation, you talk about the flavored regulation, and you mentioned alcohol.
Yeah.
And we just had a meeting. So my Brockton store is no flavored tobacco unless.
That's right. Yeah.
And this is kind of a double-edged sword. Yeah. We're an age control environment. In Brockton is now 21 plus. Wareham's 21 plus, and then the rest, the towns are pushing it off to the state.
Right.
The state had a bill to raise the age to 21 statewide, and that got squashed this last session, and it'll probably come up this session again, and it'll pass eventually. But
well, that's interesting because to me, when I hear that the statewide bill was actually vetoed, that's good news to me. But I understand that you as a retailer, you might not necessarily see it that way, because for you maybe a level playing field across the state is probably more beneficial, right? I mean, whether it's 18 or whether it's
It's
21.
the FDA, when they took control of cigarettes and loose rolling tobacco, well, they put these regulations on, and they don't even have the resources to. I lost my train of thought. I'm still on the alcohol.
Uh-huh.
So in Brockton, right, we had a meeting with all the retailers, all the convenience stores and gas stations that can't sell flavored tobacco are trying to repeal the flavor ban. And basically what happens is they don't even have, the local board of health doesn't even have the resources to regulate or cover the regulations in place now.
To enforce.
Now they're enforcing. Now they don't even have the people to enforce it. Now they pass all these new regulations, and basically what happens is we have a bullseye on our back. We're following the law. It's, you know, if you want to sell a single cigar, it has to be at least $5. They have to be in packages of 4 cigars at least. If you want to buy single, it's $5. If you're not age controlled, you can't sell flavored tobacco.
I think especially for you guys, because as you said, you're in an age-controlled store. That is, no one under 21 can enter your store. Is that correct?
We're not selling the.
So for you, it seems like these regulations are doubly ridiculous because.
Well, we're getting beat up on the other side because we're following the regulation.
Right.
You buy a single cigar, it has to be, now the premium cigars.
Right.
I mean, are always like $5. This way they got to be $5, but the guy down the street isn't following the regulations.
And he doesn't have a store that's an age, a 21 age.
He's a convenience store, and he's still selling single cigars. But to that effect as well is that these Board of Health regulations are having an adverse effect. Instead of a customer coming in, an of age customer, an adult consumer, instead of buying 1 or 2 cigars, in order to get the price of what the 1 or 2 cigars would actually cost, they have to buy the whole box to get the $1.50 for the 2.
Right.
It's 2 for $99 or 2 for $2. They have to buy the whole box. There's 15 packs in there, so it's, you know, it's $30 for the box as opposed to $5 per pack. So now they're buying in more cigars. So
I mean, it's like people. I know a lot of people who go to New Hampshire to buy cigarettes, and they buy 2 or 3 cartons at a time. It's the same thing. It sounds like. Yeah.
Drive up 93 every Friday and Saturday night, and there's literally a line of traffic, and 30% or 28% of the cars on that highway are tobacco consumers, and you can bet they're not buying their cigars or their tobacco products from Massachusetts on that weekend. Yeah. And they're probably up there every weekend. They have a condo, they're snowmobiling in the wintertime, and they're swimming lakes, rivers, and streams in the summertime. Plus they probably have their boats and jet skis. So
they're putting a lot of money into the economy in other ways besides tobacco.
Massachusetts is losing millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue to not only New Hampshire. Rhode Island at this point has a tax cap on their cigars. Connecticut, what's left is flowing out of the state in via mail order. Yep. One of the things that we're psyched about is the mail order or the internet business is going to start having to follow the same regulations. In other words, when if they're 27 or if they're 25, they want to buy cigars, they have to show us their ID. Well, when you buy cigars online, they're kind of skirting around that. I mean, you don't need to be. You don't necessarily. I mean, any kid can get their parents' credit card and buy the stuff online. But we're excited that they're going to finally start regulating the online sales, and hopefully we get some business back. Yep. Many years ago, when the state went from 75 cents a pack to $1.50 a pack, we were like decimated. I mean, the stores were just slow. We were opening more stores to try and do what the one store had done for so long. And then all of a sudden, the Jenkins Act came along and stopped the mail order cigarettes, and it was like an explosion.
I remember when that happened, yeah.
It was like an explosion. All of a sudden, all this business came back. We were back in business, and it was really tough for many years. We thought we were gonna get squashed, and it's like the realization, especially in Massachusetts, is these people don't want you to consume tobacco.
I think that's the bottom line. I mean, I'm interested in hearing you talk because I think
they don't care.
Yeah.
And for many years, I'm sorry not to talk about you.
No,
they don't care if it's a cigar, a cigarette, a lump of chewing tobacco. They don't care what it is. It's smoking, and smoking's bad.
Yeah.
And that's what they're after.
I think it's the bottom line. I mean, I do think there are times when consumers and retailers have different priorities, and just from hearing you talk, I can hear that there are times when what's good for you might not necessarily be good for the consumer, just because it seems to me like what you really want most of all is consistency and a level playing field overall. Whereas I, as a consumer, would actually just prefer to see less regulation.
New Hampshire's not about to slap a 40% tax on their loose rolling tobacco and cigars. They're just not going to do it.
Whereas also the average smoker on the street doesn't want to see New Hampshire have to go up to the level of Massachusetts because they want to still buy tobacco.
I'd rather learn from our mistake here.
Yeah, no,
so what happens is it becomes counterproductive. The legislature raises the taxes, sales go down because more people are going and finding other sources. I mean, my neighbor has been smoking since he was a young lad. He's not interested in quitting. He's not ever going to quit. Well, the legislature knows that, and the second so now they've raised the price so high.
They're really just interested in getting his money. I mean, let's face it.
Well, now when people go to other sources and we're forcing it to this black market, the state starts losing money. Well, what do they do to counteract that? They raise the taxes higher to get over the hump. And
well, it's not. I mean, to be fair, it's not only I think we're at a weird place right now with tobacco regulation because it's kind of the combined. I know we've talked about this when you've been on the show before. It's kind of the combined forces of anti-smoking, anti-tobacco campaigners together with legislature because they both have interest in it at this point. But I do think there's going to come a point where the
revenue committee and public health committee have to cross paths.
They're going to have to butt heads at a certain point because their interests cannot be.
Well, from what I understand is well, I don't want to get too much into politics, but what I understand is that the Senate and the House are not in a good place, so it's questionable on whether or not that 21 pluses thing is going to pass this session too.
Well, I'm hesitant. I don't want to get too involved in politics. I do want to bring up the point that we've just elected a new president, President Trump. There's a lot of speculation about whether Trump will be good for smokers, for cigar smokers, for cigarette smokers, just because of the fact that he has promised a certain lessening of regulation overall. I also want to point out that Vice President-elect Mike Pence was apparently a past co-sponsor of the premium cigar exemption legislation. Which could be good news for cigar smokers at least. So do you have any thoughts about that? Not having to get partisan at all in your politics, but just do you have any hope that a new administration might?
I think that
have a good effect.
That party believes in less regulation in general, less taxes, smaller government. I'm not, like you talk about Massachusetts. Charlie Baker took office, and also Mitt Romney. Never saw an increase till the end when it was the universal health care, universal health care for all. Romney actually passed, but they knew that was coming because the Fed had wanted the states to adopt their own affordable health care acts. Well, they all did that, but then the Fed decided, well, they didn't. A lot of states didn't take up the ball.
The initiative,
And so, but what you got to understand is it was cigarette consumers paid for that healthcare initiative by adding another tax, another $1 per pack. Then the Fed got involved. They added another $1 a pack. So now it's subsidized through the Fed. But it's like, hey, did the tobacco consumers get the other $1 that you're taking from them for affordable healthcare? No, it goes into the general fund. It does whatever. So it's really tobacco consumers are really getting beat up. But the thing you got to remember, being in this deal, the Tobacco 21 initiative is being pushed by really two people, but one person really hard, and that's Dr. Hartman. It was Dr. Winikoff and Dr. Hartman. They're both pediatricians that headed the research. They're pushing the Tobacco 21 to the towns. as well as the state. They are also, those two people are pushing it to the federal government.
That's so the campaign for tobacco-free kids, right? I know that they've been very...
This is the Tobacco 21.
Oh, it's Tobacco 21.
Tobacco
okay.
21.
But I know that these two groups are they're really going around town to town, community to community.
But they're also pushing it federally.
Yeah.
But the thing you gotta understand is their research, and they're hanging their hat on, is that people aren't cognitive enough until they're 25 to make good decisions.
I've heard them say that.
That's why car rental companies don't let you rent a car until you're 25. And it's like, well, okay, so why then are the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines in the high school trying to recruit kids to hold guns to go and defend their country? Why are 18-year-olds allowed to vote? Why are 18-year-olds allowed to buy, drive cars? And it's just...
Or drink alcohol at 21,
At 21, right? So why not make alcohol 25, tobacco 25, gambling 25, rent a car 25. Oh, you don't have to be 25. Now here's my personal feeling. Right, where does it end? But here's my personal feeling. I have a 2 and a 3-year-old now. I don't think you're really cognitive enough to make good decisions until you have had children and you are responsible for someone else's life. I don't care how old you are.
So why don't we make a law that anyone who doesn't have children can't drink, can't buy cigarettes, can't vote, that sounds like a good idea.
It's just unnecessary. I think that, and the other thing that the Republican Party believes in letting the people or the states govern themselves. For instance, the health care for all. Mitt Romney passed it. It was good. It was a good. Basically, just said, hey, if you don't have insurance, you're going to lose your state deduction. Well, that's motivation to go and get insurance. Not to mention, it's probably a good thing to have insurance, so when you get hurt, you can just go to your primary care and, hey, I'm sick, here's some amoxicillin or whatever, here's some eye drops.
Instead of going to the emergency room and
spending hundreds of dollars that you're never going to pay.
Which also ends up being more costly for the system.
I'm really kind of bipartisan. I see both sides of the issue, and I see where issues are going to cross paths, and there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way where we can, because people are going to smoke, people are going to consume tobacco. There's got to be a way where.
I agree. I don't think that will ever stop. I think people will always use tobacco.
Never. I mean, this is going. I'm not that old of a guy, but this has been going on as long as I've been alive. I was the kid getting the Camel Joe lighters from the Camel guy on the side of the road. That was me. I was the little 12-year-old getting the Camel Joe T-shirts and the Marlboro Adventure Team jackets. I was the guy, and I don't know who my senator, who our rep was in Plymouth, but he probably drove by me out in Plymouth Center getting the stuff and was like, no way!
You're the
it's like things are different now. Anyway, so we talk about it all the time. We used to go to Miles Standish, and we had my parents had a rubbish business. We had a rack body truck, and we would just all pile in the back of the truck. You can't do that anymore.
I know.
They'll lynch you. You'll be all done. They'll hang you.
You can't do anything anymore. It's true. No. Geoff, I want to play. Now, Geoff is very well known in Massachusetts for recording some hilarious radio spots, and I want to play one of them for you because this is a recent one from Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's funny.
And I just think they're so funny.
They all have a story behind them too. Just so you know, they're not just out of left field. They all have something going on.
So if you don't mind, Geoff, I'm gonna play this right now.
Hey, yo, Governor, pass the gravy.
Sly, you love the gravy. Make sure to put it on everything.
Hey, yo, I would appreciate it if you didn't tell me how to eat my Thanksgiving,
Guys, I've been cooking all day. Please, don't fight at the dinner table.
Shut up, Christopher. Everyone knows you put the gravy on everything, even the cranberry. Forget about it. I'm not eating. I stopped at Brennan's for some cigars. I'm going outside. I'm doing it. I'm doing it now.
Hey, yo, Christopher, did he say you stopped at Brennan's for some cigars?
Guys, I've been slaving on the stove all day. Please sit down before I smack yous.
Whoa, since you put it that way,
All right, forget about the gravy. Let's just get through this so I go outside and enjoy these cigars I picked up from Brennan's.
Nothing brings feuding families together like Thanksgiving. Don't forget to stop by Brennan's and pick up some cigars. Brennan's Smoke Shop, Plymouth, Pembroke, Brockton, Wareham, Raynham, Taunton, Stoughton.
Can I tell you what I love about your ads is actually in the background at the end, the music.
Oh, Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's so
mine now.
patriotic. It just really, I love it. Great.
Yeah, I wear a feather in my cap every day.
I love it.
That ad, my mom didn't like that because I did all those voices. It was really walking.
So you were
stuff.
all those voices.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
yeah, I
pretty
do.
amazing.
Years ago, I went to do an ad, but I needed like another voice, and I do them down at the local radio station in Marshfield, ATD, and they brought a kid, and I go, and he did the voice, and I said, "How old are you?" And he says, "Oh, I'm 17." You cannot be in my tobacco store.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do
I
this.
didn't think
Oh, well,
about
I
it,
can
yeah.
call. He says, I'll ask my parents. They'll let me do it. I'm like, no.
Like, I don't need that kind of publicity.
Ever
right?
since then, I do all the voices myself.
Wow.
But that one, Mom didn't like before I smack it. So the other one, the real one goes. It goes, and it was
Just
really
like a
great.
mother. Mothers don't like anything with slapping. Or,
Walking's
yeah,
really
yeah.
tough. And the other one the real one goes, sit down before I stuff this watch where the sun don't shine.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's how it ended up.
That's pretty good.
But they all have a story. That one there, I sponsor another radio show, and they were all doing they play outtakes of the ads, and it was like the
Oh, that
Grim
must be
Reaper
funny,
one.
the outtakes.
But
Yeah.
they were doing all the voices, so I did that for them, so that that's kind of it's generational. Like I grew
Right.
up with Sly and
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme and Arnold.
Right.
The Arnold.
But I think no matter what generation you are, you can still you still kind of get the joke, even if you
Chuck
don't.
Norris. Like how do you do
yeah.
How do you do Chuck Norris?
Don't ask me. I'm not good at doing impersonations.
This will be my
whatsoever.
Chuck Norris radio ad.
All right, let's hear it. That's pretty good. I think we're seeing the birth of a new ad right
Yeah.
here.
What does Chuck Norris say?
We're watching the creative process in
There was
right
a
now.
Chuck Norris Trump
there-
joke. I can't remember
There's
it
so
though.
many jokes about Chuck Norris now. I can't remember one.
There
of
was a
them. Yeah.
Chuck Norris Trump. It was really funny. It was really funny.
All right, we'll have to find that for next time. Geoff, so we're almost out of time. I just want to really thank you. I know there's a lot of things we didn't get into today, so we'd love to have you back soon.
We need an hour.
In the new year. Maybe we can do a double episode.
We need an hour.
Yeah, we definitely need it. Thank you again for joining us.
No problem.
Have a lovely holiday and
You
a
too.
wonderful new year. We'll see you soon. Thanks and have a good evening.
See you guys.